the dub. They end up getting the whole PI thing in the end zone. It's another deal where you go, I don't understand. Like it doesn't compute in my brain that you can just do whatever you want aside from like literally horse collar tackle the guy in the jump ball in situation at the end. But at the same time, if you called it, it would be like if I was an offense, maybe my whole offense would be like just throw Hail Marys because what would you do? All right, so what I got wrong. Number one, in our matchups, we talked about Aaron Jones being injured, Chiefs box 7. How are the Packers going to create opportunities in the run game? We talked about Jaden Reed. Obviously, he's doing a great job. And then Christian Watson had a couple of big plays that didn't show, but a couple of end arounds that I think one got for a first down, and then he pulled his hammy. Hope he's going to be okay. This game in particular, so we run for – I'm going to get this – I want to get the numbers right here because I'll screw this up. So rushing, we go for 25 for 129, 5.2. The big thing here is A.J. Dillon, for the first time in a long time, is over 4 yards a carry, 4.1. Jordan Love goes for 5. Christian goes for 7.5. Patrick Taylor has 2 rushes for 29 yards. Okay, so he's our main guy talking about A.J., but he gets 18 carries for 73 yards. And the big deal is we're moving the sticks. And they did it by keeping these guys honest. So the motion and giving the ball to Watson, giving the ball to Jaden Reed. We had some opportune calls. Like I think Patrick Taylor's biggest run was on a 2-minute drill. But you kept moving. The big thing for me, honestly, was that we were able to double team. We were able to turn shoulders, and we were able to get AJ to the second level. And especially when Tranquill went out, and it was happening before that, the first drive. But when Tranquill went out, you kind of felt watching their tape, the way that he attacks the line of scrimmage, that was going to be a loss that would be tough for them to make up. The other thing that happened that was surprising, to be fair, was they didn't really bring guys off the slot as much as I thought they would. I didn't see the run blitzes as much as I thought we would, given this. And part of that's the quarterback and the skills, the receiving core last week, I think, against the Raiders, it's much different. Aiden O'Connell's not the same player. So maybe they respect Jordan. Maybe they respect him too much. I don't know. But they certainly gave us an opportunity to be successful. And I think if you get AJ over 4, I think you have to feel good about that. Number 2, Kelce versus who? Sam Laporta started off hot last week. And, how are we going to deal with Kelce's going to get his, right? Kelce, and yesterday he had what? He had 4 catches, 81 yards, 27-yard long. He made some plays when the plays needed to be made, but this game was about possession. Like, they could run the ball well. They didn't have a ton of touches. And so the opportunities were limited. I mean, like, if you watch this, the game goes by fast. There's just not the running plays, the clock keeps running. Like, there's just not opportunity. So that was really, if you talk about like why this thing was so successful from maybe their playmaking ability. One, Patrick Mahomes, a lot of times was pressured and had to move around in the pocket. Running the ball was more effective than passing the ball. But really, the Green Bay Packers offense did such a good job of keeping them off the field that it's just hard to create that rhythm. Now, our secondary did a good job. But let's be honest, Travis Kelce is going to get open if he wants to get open. There's nobody in the league that's just going to summarily shut him down unless you just stick man on. And it would have to be – we saw what happened last week when they did that. Rashee Rice went for 108 yards and a touchdown. Number 3, Packers pass rush versus the Chiefs offensive line. Smith and Gary, they played well. They beat those guys early. Van Ness had a sack, beat one early. Kenny Clark got into the backfield. My take here is that we did have the advantage. I think the game didn't dictate necessarily that we were just going to get a ton of opportunities to rush on Mahomes. Mahomes passed the ball 33 times, which is on the surface, that means he dropped back probably 37, 38, 39 times. We ended up pressuring him a decent amount. We ended up getting 3 sacks. I don't know what the actual pressure numbers were, but the rush lane integrity, the passing lane integrity with a guy who's mobile like Mahomes is and good at buying time, still really have to work on improving that. There's a fine line between telling your guys, look, you don't have a 2-way go, you have to go this way, and saying it's a free-for-all. Like, if you give if you give TJ Watt or Miles Garrett, they probably have a two-way go every play. They're probably like, you know what? I mean, let's just Desai TET. Those guys are probably like, hey, I don't care where you go, because I know you're going to make more game-changing important plays than the quarterback is evading the rush. But the D tackles also have to know, hey, if he has a two-way go, sometimes I just have to bull, watch, and extend, release, and get out to the flat and chase that quarterback. Keys to victory: stay on schedule. Talked about it last week. They did it. They did a great job moving the sticks. The rushing game was of master importance. Jordan Love and company played really well. But if we're just talking about how are you able to stay on schedule, for me, it's the running game. And I say this too: when you're able to run those jet sweeps, reverse arounds, and they don't hit, and you can still move the sticks, now that's a new dimension of confidence, right? So those don't even have to hit. We just got to show you. That's why I put fair enough or whatever. I think you have to on the tape, because I think you got to do it, and it just adds this dimension to your offense to keep them honest. The pass rush plan, we talked about it. I think we didn't do great on that. Could have done better. And I'll be honest with you, there was a lot of times in the game where I was like, why are Preston and Rashawn Gary not in the game right now? And I think it's because the series were so long. But there's a lot of plays, where, especially like in 64 was in. I mean, Ian and Donovan Smith's hurt. Well, like, man, I would be hitting that guy. I wouldn't allow Van Ness I wouldn't allow anybody but Preston or Rashawn play over those guys. If 79's hurt or 64 is in the game, like, I'm not letting anybody play over that dude except for my two best guys, because I'm going to eat all day. Like, I'm not giving anybody else a chance. Like, you got to earn the chance to go play against that guy, an injured Donovan or whoever 64 is. That's me. I'm taking advantage of that as much as I can. And then the third one, key to victory, was pre-snap recognition. And this is another, Matt LaFleur has just done a really, really good job at putting together a game plan, the entire offensive staff, Stenavich, everybody, and then preparing this group, or whether they're, we talk about the meetings that they're having on their own, whatever they're doing to prepare now seems so much better than what they were doing at the beginning of the season. Part of that's maturation, part of that's experience, but part of that's the process. Let's not minimize that part of this, okay? Because if you're a coach in the National Football League, you got to be talking about, hey, we're going to keep working this. We're going to keep our process the same, and we're going to make sure that this is going to work over the long haul. So my big takeaway here, I think, is that the ascension of Love in this receiving core is changing the trajectory of this season more than anything else. We're seeing that. I think defensively, you're seeing guys that you want to step up and win or stepping up and winning. I think we maybe took a step back with McGuffey not in there this week in the running game. But I think the ascension of Jordan Love, the ascension of the receiving core, the tight end core, and just the way they're being used, and whatever, trust your eyes, trust your guys kind of mentality that they have is huge. A couple listener questions before we get out of here. Who looked better? Every week it's the same question from you guys. Who looked better, John Runyon Jr.? John Runyon Jr. is the starter on this team. Sean Ryan played like a series or two. Like, it's not even – I'm just do simple math, okay? If John Runyon Jr. plays 50 plays and has 2 bad plays, that's what? 4% of the plays he does are poor, so he's a 96, okay? If Sean Ryan plays 10 plays and has 2 bad plays, looks a lot different now, right? 20%. If he has 1 bad play, we know he did. You got beat by Chris Jones. So it's just you can't do it. Like, the math doesn't. If you want to do the math doesn't. But if you're just doing the eyeball test, John Runyon Jr. does a lot of good stuff. The difference. Here's the second part of this question, because what's the deal with the improved O-line play? Are they playing better? I don't think you're seeing as many egregious mistakes from Josh Myers. I don't think you're seeing whiffs from him. I don't think you're seeing whiffs from John Runyon Jr. Obviously, Zach Tom continues to play at an extremely high level, right? And I think his ascension makes the entire group look a lot better, quite frankly. But you're not seeing these, like, all these things that were happening at the beginning of the season. You're not seeing as much of those. They still happen, but there's been games where you watch Myers, and he's whiffing on guys. He's not whiffing on guys right now. Last 2 weeks, he's not whiffing on anybody. John Runyon Jr., gets beat, play here, play there. It happens. He's out outside toss game. Pull game. Like I could show you plays where he's navigating the pull where the tight end gets blown up, that he navigates around and gets a second block, and nobody will notice it. He plays well. Like he's not play like there's for me, there's no contest here. I don't know what we're talking about. Now the other guy deserves at 3-6, yeah, you have this conversation. But now you're in the playoff hunt. And if you want to keep to develop the guy because you think he's going to be a project and it's worth it, again, last week I don't see a much of a trade off. I don't see a much of a trade off now. But you're not going to get me to say Sean Ryan's playing better than John Rennie Jr. So you should put him in. It's ridiculous. Here's a good question: what will DCs do to adjust to our more explosive passing game? If it was me, pressure up the middle. I'd pressure up the middle because I think that's where the soft spot is on the offense, on the offensive line. And I think what you're, I mean, it depends what you have, right? If you have a ton of safety, if you have a ton of like really good corners, where you're going to go man, and you go, hey, I trust my guys, I'm going to send more guys to get the ball out of his hands faster. I think what you're seeing is, we talked about it a little bit already, but when you have when you have the motion, you have the jet sweeps, and you have the routes, when you have the misdirection, when you have all that stuff, and they didn't even run screens. Like their screen game is nothing. But if you get the screen game going now, you got, from a defensive standpoint, you're starting to have a real issue because Christian Watson is now all of a sudden kind of back to where he was at the end of last year when he was balling out. And he's a problem. And people are going to be scared of him. And they're going to bracket him. And they're going to look at him. And their safety eyes are going to be here because they don't want to get beat by a guy who's that fast. And now you got Jayden Reed, he's a real problem. Like Romeo Doubs is not an afterthought, but because he's a really good route runner, ball catcher. He made some plays last night. But when you look at like, okay, he's your second or third option, and then you got Wicks and you got, I'm forgetting 18's name. Forgive me because he had another good day. Malik Heath, free agent. I didn't know he was a free agent. Good Lord. Good player. But you have all these other guys, and they're all making plays. But they make plays. Don't get it twisted. Like, if you have a guy like Christian Watson, this is why athletes get paid the most. Athletes. Because if you got a guy like Christian Watson who can take the top off and generally scares the cornerback, the safety, everything else opens up. If you got a guy like Jayden Reed who, like, they don't know how they're going to give him the ball, like a Deebo Samuel. Not quite there, don't get me wrong. But if you don't know how he's going to get the ball, how he's going to affect it, now all of a sudden the game plan, like coordinators are staying up later. Like, what do we do with this? What do we do with this? Are we going to spy Jordan Love? Okay, we can't do that because what do we do with Jayden Reed then? Like, who's getting double? We put Doubs and I guarantee you this: how many times do you think in the red zone you're going to see Doubs and Christian Watson on the same side in single coverage again? Like, probably not very many making plays like that. The last thing I'll say about this week is you don't ever really know how these things are going to go. And this team has played so much different, I think, than the last couple, earlier in the season. It looks like a different team. It looks like they had some belief. And again, it really comes down to, like, can your quarterback play catch with your receivers at a high level? Man, I'm stupid, but that's what it is. And this guy's doing it. He's starting to do it at a high level. And because of that, you look at the upcoming Giants, we're going to be favored. Bucks, we're going to be favored at home. Going into Carolina, definitely going to be favored in that game. I mean, definitely. I mean, that poor team. Good Lord. You look at your next 3 games before Christmas, and it's like, we're going to the playoffs. Unless something catastrophic happens, you're going to the playoffs. So knowing that and having that confidence that you're building something that is going to allow you to probably not win the Super Bowl, but get some experience for these guys. Get the fans, life is better when you're winning, right? So everything, you learn more, everything goes better. You get more creative, you get more personality, you get all of it, because you're building. But this suddenly looks so much different than a month ago. It's hard to remember a team with the Packers that looks so different, so different from like October to end of November, beginning of December. It's crazy, but it's been fun to watch. We're going to do a preview show on the Packers and the Giants here at the. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put it out on Thursday still, but I'm gonna record it on Wednesday. So guys, hit me up, MikeWall68 on Twitter, Process to Perform on Instagram. Subscribe, like, rate, review us on our YouTube channel, Process to Perform. And until next time, thanks for watching.